G'day and welcome. I'm so glad you've taken the time to listen to this story. Whether you're here for the journey or to help you drift off to sleep, I truly appreciate it. This story will be released in parts, with about 4 chapters at a time, so if you're tuning in early, you might need to wait for the next chapters to be released. No matter what brings you here, whether it's to relax or to dive into the story, I'm chuffed to have you along. I hope you find it intriguing and relaxing enough to come back for more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. A dance under the stars. Amelia stood in front of her wardrobe, staring at the limited choices of dresses she'd brought with her to Longreach. She pulled out a simple blue dress, holding it up with a skeptical eye. "Margaret, remind me why I agreed to this again?" Margaret leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed and grinning. "Because it's a tradition. You can't live in Longreach and not experience a B&S ball at least once. Besides, you'll have fun. Trust me." Amelia huffed, but Margaret's enthusiasm was contagious. "Fine, but if I trip over my own feet, you're taking me home early." Margaret laughed. "Deal. Now hurry up. We don't want to miss the opening dance." The B&S ball was held in a sprawling paddock on the outskirts of town, the area transformed with strings of fairy lights, a live band on a raised stage, and a makeshift dance floor under the open sky. The air buzzed with energy as townsfolk arrived, dressed in everything from ball gowns to jeans and boots. Amelia followed Margaret through the crowd, feeling both out of place and oddly excited. She hadn't been to anything like this before, and the carefree atmosphere was infectious. People greeted her warmly, pulling her into conversations about the school and her impressions of Longreach. "See?" Margaret said, nudging her. "Not so bad, right?" Amelia smiled. "It's different, but in a good way." As the night went on, the band struck up a lively tune and couples began to pair off on the dance floor. Amelia was content to stay on the sidelines, watching the twirling skirts and stomping boots, until Jayden appeared. He approached with his trademark confidence, hat tipped low but his smile unmistakable. "Amelia," he said, offering his hand, "fancy a dance?" Her first instinct was to refuse, but the teasing glint in his eyes made her hesitate. "I'm not much of a dancer," she admitted. "Neither am I," he said with a grin, "but no one here cares. Come on, I won't let you fall." Before she could overthink it, she placed her hand in his and let him lead her onto the floor. The first few steps were awkward, with Amelia hyper-aware of every movement, but Jayden's steady hand on her waist and his relaxed demeanor put her at ease. As they moved together, she began to loosen up, even laughing when he spun her unexpectedly. "You're doing great," he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Liar," she shot back, though she was smiling. By the time the song ended, she was breathless but exhilarated. Later, as the night wore on, Amelia stepped away from the dance floor to catch her breath. She found a quiet spot near the edge of the paddock where the stars seemed impossibly close and the music drifted softly in the background. Jayden joined her, carrying 2 glasses of punch. "Thought you might need this," he said, handing her one. "Thanks," she said, taking a sip. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, looking out at the sea of stars. "This reminds me of home," Jayden said finally, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "You mean the property?" Amelia asked. He nodded. "I've spent more nights than I can count out under skies like this, checking on cattle or fixing fences. It's peaceful, you know?" Amelia glanced at him, seeing a vulnerability she hadn't noticed before. "It sounds nice," she said softly. "A life with roots, a sense of place." Jayden turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "And you? What brought you all the way out here, Amelia? Really?" She hesitated, then said, "I wanted a fresh start, to challenge myself. I guess I thought if I could make it here, I could make it anywhere." "You've done more than make it," he said, his voice warm. "The kids adore you. The town's better for having you here." His words caught her off guard, and for a moment, she didn't know how to respond. "That's kind of you to say," she managed. "It's the truth," he said simply. They fell silent again, the unspoken tension between them humming as brightly as the stars above. Before either could say more, Margaret called Amelia's name from across the paddock, breaking the moment. "Guess that's my cue," Amelia said with a small smile, though part of her was reluctant to leave. Jayden tipped his hat. "Until next time, then." As she walked back to Margaret, Amelia couldn't help but glance over her shoulder. Jayden was still there, watching her with a look that made her heart race. Old wounds, new beginnings. Amelia was in the middle of reviewing lesson plans when Margaret's voice echoed down the hallway. "Amelia! You've got visitors!" Visitors. Confused, she set her notebook down and headed for her bedroom door. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw her parents standing there, suitcases at their feet and familiar expectant smiles on their faces. "Mum? Dad?" she said, her voice tinged with surprise. "What are you doing here?" Her mum leaned in for a quick hug. "We thought we'd surprise you. It's been too long, and we wanted to see how you're settling in." Her dad glanced around, taking in the rustic charm of the house with a raised eyebrow. "It's cozy," he remarked. Amelia's stomach twisted. She hadn't realized how much she'd been enjoying her independence until this moment. The visit started pleasantly enough. Amelia showed them around the house and took them on a quick tour of the school, where her students eagerly greeted her. But by dinner, the cracks began to show. "You've really thrown yourself into this, haven't you?" her mum said as she sipped her tea. "I have," Amelia replied cautiously, sensing where the conversation was headed. Her dad set down his fork. "Don't you think it's a bit much, though? Living so far from home in such a remote place? You could teach anywhere, Amelia." Her mum chimed in. "We just worry about you, love. It feels like you're isolating yourself out here." The words, though well-meaning, hit her like a blow. She'd heard similar doubts from them before she left the Sunshine Coast, but hearing them now, after she'd started to feel at home in Longreach, stung in a way she hadn't expected. "I'm not isolating myself," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I've made friends, and the students are thriving. This is where I want to be." Her dad exchanged a glance with her mum, and Amelia felt her frustration bubble to the surface. "Maybe you should have called first," she blurted, pushing her chair back. "I need some air." The next day at school, Amelia struggled to focus. Her parents' words echoed in her mind, amplifying every small challenge she faced. By the time she returned home, she was emotionally drained. Margaret noticed immediately. "What's going on?" Margaret asked gently as Amelia collapsed onto the couch. "My parents," Amelia sighed. "They think I've made a mistake coming here, and maybe they're right." Margaret crossed her arms. "Do you think they're right?" Amelia hesitated. "I don't know. I was so sure at first, but now I'm starting to second-guess everything." Margaret sat beside her. "Listen, everyone has doubts, but you've built something here, Amelia. Don't let anyone take that away from you, not even your parents." Later that evening, Amelia heard the familiar rumble of a ute outside. Curious, she stepped onto the veranda and saw Jayden leaning against his vehicle, hands in his pockets. "Hey," he said with a small smile. "Margaret mentioned you had a rough day. Thought you might want to get out of the house for a bit." Amelia hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, why not?" Jayden drove her to a quiet spot on his family's property, a ridge overlooking rolling fields of grass that stretched out beneath the stars. The storm from a few days earlier had left the air crisp and fresh, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and distant calls of wildlife. "It's beautiful," Amelia said, stepping out of the ute and taking it all in. "It's my favorite spot," Jayden admitted, joining her. "Whenever I need to clear my head, I come here." They sat side by side on the tailgate, the silence between them comfortable. After a while, Jayden spoke. "Family can be complicated," he said, staring out at the horizon. My parents have always expected me to take over the property, but there were times I wondered if it's what I really wanted, or just what they wanted for me. Amelia glanced at him, surprised by his candor. How did you figure it out? I didn't, he said with a wry smile. Not completely, but I realized that trying to live up to someone else's expectations wasn't going to make me happy. So I decided to do things my way, run the property on my terms, not theirs. His words struck a chord with her. It's not easy, is it? Standing your ground when the people you love don't understand. No, it's not, Jayden said, his voice gentle. But it's worth it. You've got to trust yourself, Amelia. You've got something special here. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. The following morning, Amelia's parents prepared to leave. As they loaded their luggage into the car, her mum pulled her aside. Amelia, she began, we might not fully understand why you chose to come here, but it's clear this place means a lot to you, and if it means a lot to you, we'll support you. Her dad nodded in agreement. We just want you to be happy, love, even if it's not the life we pictured for you. Amelia's throat tightened, but she managed to smile. Thank you. That means a lot. They hugged tightly, and as their car disappeared down the dusty road, Amelia felt a renewed sense of purpose. Margaret, watching from the veranda, gave her a wink. Told you they'd come around. As Amelia laughed, the familiar rumble of Jayden's ute echoed in the distance. The horizon stretched wide before her, full of possibilities, and for the first time in a long time, Amelia felt completely at home. Building bridges. The idea for the mural came to Amelia during a quiet afternoon in her classroom, as she watched her students sketch and paint for an upcoming art lesson. The walls of the school, though functional, were dull and uninspiring. What if those walls could tell a story, one that celebrated Longreach and its people? When she floated the idea at the next staff meeting, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Even Mr. Thompson, who usually rolled his eyes at artsy projects, agreed it was a worthwhile endeavor. I'll spread the word around town, Margaret offered. This could be just the thing to bring everyone together. The following week, Amelia stood in the schoolyard, clipboard in hand, as students, parents, and local volunteers gathered for the mural's kick-off meeting. She explained her vision, a vibrant tapestry of Longreach's history, culture, and natural beauty, painted by the community. Jayden arrived late, his boots kicking up dust as he approached. Heard you needed an extra set of hands, he said with a grin. Amelia couldn't help but smile back. Always. Can you paint? Not a chance, he admitted, but I'm handy with a ladder and a paint roller. You're hired, she teased. The project took shape quickly. Students sketched designs in class, inspired by their surroundings and family stories. Parents contributed ideas, and local artists volunteered their expertise. Even the town's mayor stopped by to offer her support. Each day after school, the wall came alive with splashes of color and activity. Amelia worked alongside her students, guiding their brushes and encouraging their creativity. Margaret oversaw logistics, ensuring there was enough paint and supplies, while Jayden and a few other volunteers handled the scaffolding and heavy lifting. One afternoon, as Amelia was adding details to a painting of kangaroos bounding through golden grass, she glanced over to see Jayden steadying a ladder for one of the older students. He was laughing, his easygoing nature putting everyone at ease. "You're good at this," she said as he walked over to refill his water bottle. "At what?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. "Connecting with people. You make it look effortless." He shrugged. "It's not hard when you're working with good people. And you, Amelia, are one of the best. This mural idea, it's something special." Her cheeks warmed at the compliment, but before she could respond, a group of students called her over to inspect their work. As the mural neared completion, word spread through Longreach. People who hadn't been involved initially started dropping by to watch the progress, share stories, and even add a brushstroke or two. One evening, after most of the volunteers had left, Amelia and Jayden stayed behind to clean up. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the mural, which now featured a sprawling landscape of the outback, complete with native animals, local landmarks, and a tribute to the school. "It's beautiful," Amelia said, stepping back to admire their work. "It is," Jayden agreed, but his gaze wasn't on the mural. Amelia caught his look and quickly busied herself with gathering paintbrushes. "We've still got a bit to do tomorrow," she said, trying to change the subject. Jayden didn't press her, but as they packed up, he said, "You've done something amazing here, Amelia. This mural, it's more than just paint on a wall. It's a reminder that we're all connected." She looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, and felt a swell of pride, not just in the mural, but in the community she was becoming a part of. The mural's unveiling was a grand event, with nearly the entire town in attendance. Amelia stood at the front of the crowd, nerves tingling as the mayor gave a speech praising the project's impact. When the sheet covering the mural was pulled away, the crowd erupted in applause. Students pointed out their contributions, parents snapped photos, and a sense of collective pride filled the air. Jayden found Amelia in the crowd, a rare moment of quiet between them. "You've done it," he said. "We've done it," she corrected, meeting his gaze. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the mural in golden light, Amelia felt a profound sense of belonging. Longreach wasn't just where she worked, it was becoming her home. And standing beside Jayden, she couldn't help but wonder if her future held even more to look forward to than she'd dared to dream. Harvest Festival Harmony. The Longreach Harvest Festival was the highlight of the year, a celebration of the region's resilience and abundance. Amelia had been hearing about it for weeks from Margaret and her students, but now, standing in front of the school's booth, she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. The booth showcased her students' hard work, dioramas, paintings, and the much-anticipated wind turbine project. It had been a labor of love, with lunchtime rehearsals and countless adjustments to ensure everything was just right. Now, under the open sky, the setup was proving to be more challenging than Amelia had expected. "Need a hand?" Jayden's familiar voice called out. He approached with his usual relaxed stride, his rugged confidence putting her immediately at ease. Amelia sighed in relief. "You have no idea how much." Jayden smirked, rolling up his sleeves. "Let's get to it then." In minutes, he secured the flapping banners, stabilized a precariously wobbly table, and even adjusted the wind turbine so it caught the breeze just right. Amelia couldn't help but marvel at how effortlessly he worked. "You make it look easy," she said, watching him tie off a rope with a confident knot. "Farm life," he said with a wink. "You learn to fix things on the fly." As the festival got underway, Amelia's nerves faded into the background. The streets were alive with stalls selling homemade jams, local crafts, and the enticing smell of freshly baked bread. Children darted between booths, their laughter blending with the distant hum of live music. Jayden lingered near the booth, helping her answer questions from curious parents and encouraging the students to explain their projects. "Miss Jones, can we show the wind turbine now?" one of her students asked eagerly. Amelia grinned. "Of course. Let's show everyone what you've worked so hard on." The demonstration drew a small crowd, and Amelia felt a swell of pride as her students confidently explained the mechanics of their creation. From the corner of her eye, she noticed Jayden watching, his expression thoughtful. The day wasn't without its hiccups. Mid-afternoon, a sudden gust of wind sent one of the banners flying into the adjacent stall, toppling a carefully arranged display of homemade candles. Amelia rushed over, apologizing profusely as she helped the stall owner salvage what she could. "It's all right, love," the older woman said with a kind smile. "No harm done." Still, Amelia couldn't shake the embarrassment. With Jayden's help, she quickly repaired the damage, securing the banner with extra rope and helping to rebuild the candle display. By the time it was over, she was flushed and frazzled, but grateful for Jayden's steady presence. "You handled that like a pro," he said, handing her a bottle of water. "I don't feel like one," she admitted, taking a sip. Jayden's smile was warm. "Trust me, you kept your cool. That's what matters." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the festival began to wind down. String lights cast a warm glow over the grounds, and the crowd thinned, leaving a quieter, more intimate atmosphere. Amelia found herself drawn to a bench at the edge of the park, away from the remaining bustle. Jayden joined her a few minutes later, handing her a cup of lemonade. "Thought you might need this." "Thanks," she said, taking the cup. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, watching the lights twinkle against the darkening sky. This was a good day. Amelia said softly. "It was," Jayden agreed. He hesitated before adding, "You're fitting in here, you know. People notice." She smiled, the compliment warming her. "I hope so. It's starting to feel like home." Jayden turned to her, his expression unusually serious. "It's not easy, you know, carving out a place for yourself. I've had to do it too." She looked at him, surprised. "You? I thought you were the town's golden boy." He chuckled, though there was a hint of something deeper in his eyes. "It's not always what it seems. There's a lot of pressure to live up to expectations." Their conversation shifted into more personal territory. Jayden spoke about his family's farm, his dreams, and the weight of responsibility he carried. Amelia, in turn, shared stories about her childhood, her reasons for becoming a teacher, and the moments of doubt she still faced. Under the canopy of stars, their connection deepened. For the first time, Amelia saw the vulnerability behind Jayden's charm, and it made her trust him even more. As the festival lights dimmed around them, Amelia felt a quiet certainty. Longreach wasn't just a place she had stumbled into, it was becoming a place she wanted to stay. And Jayden, well, he was becoming a part of that vision too. Thank you so much for giving your time and attention to this part of the story. It means the world to me. If you enjoyed the journey so far, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. What parts resonated with you? Did anything stand out, make you laugh, or move you? If you have feedback on ways I can improve or ideas for future stories, I'd love to hear them. Your insights not only help me grow as a storyteller, but also inspire new adventures to explore. Until we meet again in the next part of this tale, I wish you relaxation, peacefulness, and moments of joy in your own journey.